Hello, I'm Bruce DePuy. Coming up today on News Talk, California's governor signs legislation giving patients with terminal illnesses and their doctors more options. Now, D.C. and several states are considering so-called death with dignity measures as well. Is it right to let people decide how and when the end should come? We'll ask a leading member of the Maryland legislature, Delegate Shane Pendergrass of Howard County, and we'll take your calls. Then, scandal in the multi-billion-dollar world of fantasy sports, as an official with one company is caught profiting off wagers he made with the competition. The latest on all this, plus the possibility of the Skins playing in London, as we talk with Washington Post reporter Neil Greenberg. Welcome in on this Thursday. Hi, everybody. We have a great lineup for you today, and we're so glad to have you there. Terminally ill patients in California can now legally end their lives with doctor-prescribed drugs. Governor Jerry Brown signing the end-of-life bill into law this week, a move certain to add new energy into a debate that was already well underway. We'll talk with a leading member of the Maryland General Assembly, and on this one, we will definitely take your calls. But first, this report from correspondent Miriam Hernandez.
I didn't think that it would happen in my lifetime, and really it happened, and it should happen because it is so needed. It's so long overdue.
Christy O'Donnell has the worst kind of lung cancer and has grappled with her worst fear, not dying, but making her daughter suffer with her through debilitating pain. Doctors have given O'Donnell months, not years, to live. She fought to get the meds that will allow what she believes will be a dignified death instead of what she had been headed for.
I can't eat. I can't get out of bed to go to the bathroom myself. I can't clean myself. That's the point for me that, you know what, that's not a quality of life.
Yet today, as the governor signed the End-of-Life Option Act, opponents issued a warning. Californians Against Assisted Suicide say the measure is dangerous.
The governor asked for a special session to fix the dysfunctional Medi-Cal program. He didn't get a fix for the Medi-Cal program. What he gave Californians was a suicide pill.
Backers say the new law will have the strongest safeguards in the nation.
The person must be terminally ill, have a confirmation from 2 physicians of less than 6 months to live. The person must be mentally competent. They must be able to self-ingest the medication.
To those who oppose the measure, Christy O'Donnell says this.
My statement to the opposition would be, how much more do I have to suffer? How much more does my daughter have to watch me suffer before you're going to be convinced that this is okay?
Correspondent Miriam Hernandez there, and joining us now here, Delegate Shane Pendergrass, a Democrat. She represents Howard County in the Maryland House, and she is Vice Chair of the Chamber's Health and Government Operations Committee. It's really good to have you here. Thank you for your time. Such an important issue.
It is.
How much do the stories, does the testimony of individuals like those we just saw in Miriam Hernandez's piece, how much did they help you get to the point where you thought Maryland should consider legislation like what California has just done?
They are really the issue. It's about people who are suffering. The most succinct line that I heard in the hearing that we had last year was, every person is one bad death away from supporting this bill. And that really says it all. It describes what we heard at the hearing. It was just so devastating to listen to the stories of people. And the option, of course, is to go out and just get a gun and put it in your mouth and blow your brains out. I mean, that's the option we leave people with when we don't enact a bill like this.
Does Maryland have a bill that's crafted and ready for consideration when the Assembly, you and your colleagues, return to Annapolis, when the Assembly reconvenes in January of 2016? Right. Or are you at this point thinking about the issue in more general terms, looking at what states like California are doing and trying to devise a roadmap?
We had a bill from last year that was modeled on Oregon and Washington. We are at this point in a study. There's a joint group to study the issue with the Senate and the House, and so we've had 2 meetings of our 3. We'll have 1 more meeting in December, and we're taking the bill we had last year, but there are going to be some tweaks, in particular from California, starting with the title. We like the End of Life Option Act. We accept and agree from last year's hearings that dying is dignified regardless of how you die. I don't want to take away anyone's dignity.
So for you, as strictly in terms of what page 1 of the bill will say, you're looking at this as an end-of-life bill, not a death with dignity.
End-of-life option. It gives people one more option.
By whatever descriptor, this is an important issue. It's one that is certain to hit every family at some point. So we want to open up the phone lines now as we continue to talk with the sponsor of the legislation in Maryland, Delegate Shane Pendergrass of Howard County. Phone lines open for those of you watching in the 11 a.m. hour. That's when we're able to take your calls, and we always love doing so. So whatever your thoughts or questions or suggestions, join the conversation by dialing the number we've placed at the bottom of the screen, 703-387-1020. I do hope you'll join in on the conversation. Grab an open line now, and we'll go to the phones as your calls come in at 703-387-1020. Can you describe the hearing? Was it professionals by and large? Was it people from around Maryland, citizens describing their situation and offering their views? How much of a mix did you get?
We got a good mix, but the people were predominantly from Maryland who testified. On the other hand, the work group that met yesterday, as it happens, or Tuesday, was from people from Oregon and from places where it's working now. We wanted to hear from experience what's going on in other states, because we thought that was relevant to try to answer questions that legislative members would have about how it's working, so we can do the best job we can on our bill.
How far along, how much experience in terms of years, or however you would describe it, how much is out there for you to tap in terms of the good, the bad?
My memory is that Oregon
or...
is the first, and I think 1997. I mean,
so
they've had a long time, and they have found an interesting statistic is that over the course of this time, there's some number every year that ask for the prescription that go through the process, and a third of the people who go through the process actually do not utilize the prescription, which I found interesting.
It's the idea of having it.
It's the idea of having control. When they feel that they have an option, which is why we like end-of-life option, when they have an option that allows them to control their destiny, at least a third of the people are feeling comfortable enough not to feel the need to take the medicine, but just to take control.
So presumably that group, that third, they die of natural causes with the medicine in the drawer or locked away somewhere, untaken.
Right, exactly. And I will say that one of the most compelling people who spoke, Eris Allen, came and spoke to us about his father, who I believe gun to mouth. I don't make that up. I mean, we had several people, and in fact, the week after.
He was an official in Maryland.
He was.
And there's an Eris Allen Boulevard in Annapolis
exactly,
now.
That's correct. And the week after session ended, I believe it was, or sometime shortly after, and we had not passed the bill last year. We did not vote on it because we wanted to build support this year. But there was a person who I heard from the Death with Dignity community that had done exactly the same thing, because that's what happens. If you don't have an option, then the gift you give to your family is, this is the only choice I have, bang.
So it's people concerned about the pain, what they would regard as needless pain and suffering at the end, and the burden on family, the burden on friends.
Well, when I say the gift, I meant that sarcastically, which I don't do well and I don't do often. It's not a very nice gift to have to find your loved one, and most people go outside to do it. They don't want to do this in their house. I mean, to walk out into your yard and find your father, your husband, your brother has done this is just a horrifying thing to have that person come to terms to be so desperate to end things that they would do such what I think of as a violent death.
How would you describe where the assembly is? Pardon me, on this right now.
Until you count the votes, you don't know the votes. I think that, like the rest of the country, we are moving in a direction of supporting the bill. The Speaker came out yesterday publicly being in support of the bill. He's a wonderful man and a wonderful speaker, and I'm not surprised, but I'm very happy because that will help. That will cause people to think about it. I think that California passing their bill causes people to pay attention to it. And I'm really hoping that citizens of the state of Maryland will call their elected officials. And even if they're on the other side from me, even if they don't support it, fair enough. This is a democracy. The Goucher poll last year was 60-40 in favor of the bill.
Amazing how often things take root in California and spread across the country. We saw with the tax revolt, smoking legislation, marriage. We've seen it in a number of things over a long period of time.
They're a very progressive state.
Talking with Maryland State Delegate Shane Pendergrass of Howard County. We'll take a quick break here. Back, though, with more News Talk right after this.